Welcome to Fitter Every Day, the show where we deconstruct fitness into bite-sized bits that can help make you fitter every day. This is going to be an episode that we did a little bit differently than we normally do. We had Isaac Ruiz, who is the director of operations that we have at the facility in North Ankeny. He is both Acceleration Iowa and with CrossFit. He ties everything together. He's a super fun guy. And my business partner, Shawn, Nuetzman, who we have known each other for a very long time. Because New Year's just happened, we are trying to get all the things that people, either there's a reason they don't want to start at the gym or they're having difficulty when they do start at the gym. There's a lot of questions and a lot of comments that we get, and we decided to answer all of those and draw those comments out of a hat. So for the next 40 some minutes, we're going through all the questions that a lot of people have when they start at a fitness center, or if they're just debating whether or not to say it. Some of the lies they tell themselves, some of the reasons, whether perceived or real, that they don't start at the gym. So without further ado, here is Shawn and Isaac in the grab bag of normal client statements.
I hear this one a lot. I need to get in shape first.
Boy. Isaac, how many times have you heard that one?
A lot. I mean, I told myself that even a few times, but then I realized it was just an excuse.
So the funny thing about that statement, and I don't know if you guys have a canned response, because we do hear this one a lot. And like, it is a legitimate concern that people kind of put themselves below the level of the class, but like they don't think that they're capable of doing it because they just assume everybody else is better. But the statement, it is, when you hear it, to the person who says it, it makes sense. To the person who hears it, it doesn't. It sounds exactly like that new restaurant opened up around the corner. I would like to be full before I go in there. Or my tuition statement is coming in from college. I should probably learn everything before I get to school. So the point of the gym and the point of starting is to get in better shape. And there is no bottom floor. Like, there have been people that come in that we literally, you have to hold 2 support posts to be able to get in and out of a chair. Like, there's no bottom for where you think you're starting. So it is, I need to be hungry before I go to the restaurant, is the same statement as that statement.
Yeah, and I think, so just looking at this, if you're starting an exercise program, doesn't matter that if it's CrossFit or not, like, your goal should be sustainability. Like, I want to be able to continue to do this. So your goal the first, 2-3 weeks in the gym is just get in a routine. All right. I want you to feel good when you leave the gym. Doesn't even matter really what you're doing or how hard you're doing it. Just get in a routine.
Also, right? Good air quotes. There is a sore is going to happen when you first start.
You're going to be sore. But I try to err on the side of caution with any new member. Like, I would rather it be too easy and they're like, I could have done more today, as opposed to I'm laying on the floor and it's going to be difficult to stand up.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, it's, the whole point of it is, why are you here? Because you're not in shape. That's what made you even think about it. I mean, then you can simplify it. Like, if you guys heard the couch to marathon, couch to 5K. Mm-hmm. The whole point was, you've never done anything. Here's how you do it. The beauty of CrossFit is that it is infinitely scalable. Like you said, 2 PVC pipes just to get off the box to stand up or to step onto a plate or something. There's so many levels to get you there.
Yeah. And I think kind of what goes sort of part and parcel with I need to get in shape first is the underlying assumption that they're not good enough right away, which is not true at all. Like, there is, I think when people see the CrossFit Games, or they walk into a class, or they see the people that they're talking to, like, we're all relatively fit people, but we've been doing CrossFit for a long time, therefore it works. Or you see the other people that do it and they look and they go, I am in a state that I don't like. They are in a state that I envy, or that I wish that I could become. The difference between them and me is going to be laughable if I go in there. And I think there's a natural disconnect in that if you start, you can get to there. Where you look at some really fit person, they didn't start fit. Like I mentioned in the episode we did last time, I started CrossFit because I was 258 pounds. Like, I'm walking around about 230 right now. And that was, 30 pounds of bad weight. And I started there. And so if I'm starting there, but I've gotten to here, then I remember what it's like to have been there. So no matter where you're starting, everybody should get better when you do a fitness program. So the distance between your perceived you now and your perceived then, it's not as big as you think. And it's also less an inhibition and more like everybody started somewhere before they actually got to where they were going.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is especially with CrossFit, I think sometimes people see the games, they see the extremes, and they think that's what it is, and it's not. And I think CrossFit's doing a better job of facilitating people to understand the games and CrossFit are not the same. There's CrossFit.com, the health program, which is what a gym is, and there's the CrossFit Games. We're not talking about the games. We're talking about getting people better at life, starting at 0 or starting at 5 to get them to 10, right? Like, doesn't matter where you start, everyone can do it.
Next one. All right, Isaac. Okay, what do you got?
I'm going to get too bulky.
Ooh.
I hear this one from ladies all the time. And the first thing I always say is, I'll let you know if you're getting too bulky. Because I haven't seen it yet. But Jeff, have you heard this one before?
All the time. And I think it's more, jokingly terming like cardio bunny, like the person who just goes, I'm going to go run on the treadmill for 30 minutes and then I'm going to stretch and then I'm going to leave. And they never want to touch a weight because they don't want to get too bulky. Hear that all the time. Again, mostly from women. Guys generally don't fear getting too bulky.
I don't think I've ever heard that from a guy.
No. Like, yeah, but like you said, like you have people that just want to do cardio. They want to get toned. That's the other word you hear. They want to get bulky. They want to get toned. But I don't think people realize what toned is. Toned is building muscle.
Right. So Shawn, what's your response to, I don't want to get too bulky?
Well, like I said, first thing is I'll let you know. But usually I tell them, guys and girls, they're made differently. All right. And a lot of the ladies don't have the testosterone levels that guys have. And that's where you're going to be building a lot of your muscles. So you're not going to be looking like a guy if you lift weights 3 or 4 times a week. Yeah.
And there was again, we just use the games as a reference. And so a lot of times people will associate CrossFit with the highest level of fitness. And you look at Tia Toomey and she's got a 12 pack and she's, got pipes.
She's pregnant and still has a 6-pack.
Pregnant, still has a 6-pack. Like that kind of stuff. And you go, okay, I don't want, for some reason people say, I don't want to look like that, because this is another side note, which is I think I feel like the standard for women in beauty, and this is 3 white dudes talking about this, so definitely the right audience to say it, but the standard, especially like in the 90s, was very, very thin. And then as it's gotten better, as time's gone on, it's gotten a little bit less, but people think that that's a bad look for some reason, because they're kind of cooked in that like muscles, looking muscly is looking bad. But at the same time, you see Tia Toomey and she's that jacked. And then you go, I don't want to look like that. Well, 1, why are you afraid of looking like that? And 2, the amount of years and time it took her to get to that position is probably not something that you're going to be doing. Like, if you're trying to not get too bulky, all right, don't work out for 8 hours a day for 9 years. And you won't get that bulky.
Yeah, because that's pretty much her training regimen.
That's her whole life. Like the people that do that, that is their whole life to get that quote bulky.
I would say if you can get bulky from doing 1 hour of CrossFit 3 or 4 times a week, like let me know what you're doing, because I want to figure it out.
Yeah, you need to know how to gain weight. Isaac and I are on the other side of that spectrum.
Yeah, like again, you're coming in an hour a day. You're not going to do the strength cycles that you see these people doing. Like, yes, we do strength cycles. It is nowhere to the extreme of what they're doing, right? You're coming in, like Shawn said, an hour in a day, working out. You might lift 3-4 times a week. Again, if you're doing it and you do get bulky, people want to know.
Yeah, congratulations. But yeah, the bigger thing you're going to do, I can close this one out with this, is the point of CrossFit is to make your body the most functional version of itself that it can. Most of the time, there's going to be a weak link or 2 in someone's game. For most dudes, it's flexibility, where they're not bendy enough to do the things they need to do. So getting up off the floor when you're 90 is usually a lot harder for an 85-year-old man than it is for an 85-year-old woman in the bending capacity. For women, it's usually in strength, because historically, strength training for women hasn't been a thing. And so when you're going to do CrossFit, because we do everything, you're gonna find the thing that you're not good at, and your body will respond to that. If it's thinking of links in a chain, if you go to pull a chain, that weak link cliche, that link has to be repaired, because it doesn't matter how, like, there's no tension on the other strong links. It's how pulled apart is that little one going to be? So for women, it usually is strength. And so you're not going to get bulky. You're just going to match the strength, match the flexibility and mobility and cardio that you have the rest of your body with the strength to fill it. And then at that point, it starts becoming pretty easy and it's pretty even for the rest of your whatever you're doing. So I don't know. you'll catch yourself back to neutral, and then it's going to take a long time to get that level of, quote, bulky. All right, next one. I don't know what I'm doing. This comes from, for those that are just listening. That is, it's both true and the card that I drew. But I don't know what I'm doing. I think that one you hear from someone who is considering starting, but is scared of looking dumb in a class. To that person, Isaac, what do you say?
That's why we have coaches. That's why, and why we have the elements class. We put you with a bunch of new people. You all learn it together. And then now you can go to a class where a coach can still help you get better at it all.
Absolutely. And like Isaac said, our elements class, we want you to be prepared for class. We want you to be comfortable with everything you're doing. And there's going to be a learning curve that it's going to be longer for some movements than others. And we always have options to scale something if you're not comfortable with it. But once you get in those classes, we always have someone instructing, giving you progressions. And then most of the time, any of the other athletes in the class would be more than willing to help also. So I do hear that one a lot, but that's usually what I tell people when they're concerned about something like that.
And I think for me, when you hear that, is what is the concern that exists underneath that statement? Is I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so what if you don't know what you're doing? Then there's naturally something underneath there that says, I will look stupid, or something bad will happen to me, or I will be judged for not knowing what I'm doing. Not necessarily that you don't know what you're doing, because I don't necessarily know how to get to wherever we're going. I punch into the GPS and I drive there. I don't know how to necessarily, if I'm driving to St. Louis, I don't know how to drive to the hotel in St. Louis, but at some point I'm roughly going to get there, and I don't feel bad because if I get off, I have a GPS, it punches me back, it takes me back to where I need to go to. But if I was scared that there was going to be somebody in the back seat going, what a dumbass, he took a wrong turn. No. Like if that was existing as a judgment for not knowing where you're going, that's a much different proposition because I then feel stupid for not knowing what I'm doing. I think that the fear when you walk into a class because you're going to be judged for not knowing what you're doing, that inherently isn't true. Like people, when they start, they think that everybody cares a lot more about them than they actually do. And I don't mean that in a negative way, as in coaches care. The people want you to do well. People like when you're doing well. But also, if you're like, everyone in class is watching me and I can't do this barbell thing. This is really confusing. No one's paying attention to you. They're themselves trying to go, how do I do this better? Or I'm tired, or how do I get to this next round? They're focusing on themselves. They're not judging you. They don't have time to judge you. They don't have the attention span to spend that on you. So I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to start because I feel like I'm going to look stupid. That's a judgment that you're putting in other people's heads that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, and I kind of on the two things on this. The first one is like when you're continuing, I feel like our members that have been doing it for a long time, the ones that started from the beginning and have worked their way through, will sometimes kind of take them under their wing the first time they see somebody. Like I saw yesterday, 20-something people in that 9:30 class, 3 or 4 new people. All the new people got put with somebody. Right?
Kind of like unofficially.
Yeah, unofficially that's how it partnered up. But it was nice because I can still coach everybody, but then they're also there like making sure like, hey, there's this, here's that, here's where everything is, all the different things, which is kind of nice. The second part I was going to say is like, I don't know what I'm doing. That actually kind of works when I talk to people that are not in CrossFit. They talk about the gym or why they don't go to the gym anymore. It's like, I didn't know what I was doing, so I just felt weird, so now I don't go. And then that's when I'm like, hey, actually, that's what's the beauty of CrossFit. You don't have to know anything. You just show up.
That's true.
Workouts on the board. The coach tells you what to do. Go.
Yeah, you can walk in brain dead to a class. Like that's kind of our goal when we program is that you can walk in at minute 0, have no idea what's happening. And by minute 60, you would have been warmed up, taught something, practiced something, did a workout, done by minute 60.
And I can even, so I've made this argument before. People like, I've never lifted before. I don't know what I'm doing. It's like sometimes it's easier to teach you than it is someone that's been doing lifting at their high school football program like 20 years ago. And you have to unlearn everything that you learned then because they weren't doing it properly. Sometimes it's a lot easier to teach someone with a blank slate. It's just like, all right, let's go.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Shawn. We need a drum roll sound effect.
So this must be one that we hear from members why they skip a workout. I'm so sore.
Oh, yeah, that usually doesn't come from a person who's considering starting. That comes from a person who just started.
If you start, it doesn't matter like what you've been doing, you're probably going to be sore for the first couple of weeks. And that's even us telling you, like scaling it back, making it easier. It's just all going to be new to you. You're going to be sore.
I work out 5-6 days a week, and I'm sore from yesterday's workout.
Yeah, it's all, and that I think it's because everything's new. Like there is no adaptation. There is an adaptation. You just kind of get used to. Your body gets better at responding to stuff because you've thrown it a bunch of different stuff, and your body gets more efficient at handling energy systems. And we can get real dorky if we want to get into energy systems, but you kind of get used to using muscles that you weren't before. But because CrossFit's so broad, the first 3-4 weeks that you start doing this, you're going to find muscles that you have not worked at the intensity with which you will work them, even if it's just an air squat or even if it's just a push-up, because we do coach it. We do have different techniques. Or not different techniques. We have proper technique. We go through, how are you supposed to do this thing? And by doing that squat full depth with the right technique, your groin muscles are probably going to be sore. And you're going to do that 30 times. That's it. But the intensity with which you're working those muscles, even at a body weight, is probably more than you've been doing, even if you have some type of fitness background.
Yeah, and part of that too is I feel with CrossFit, and as you start trying to learn the new things, I think the biggest one is kipping. When people start doing kipping pull-ups, the small muscles that they've never used from strict pull-ups, they're like, what is going on? Or like the lats from pulls, all the pulling you do. Just like, why? Like...
So Shawn, what do you say to someone who says, I am so sore?
And you hear it a lot. And honestly, like my goal programming, like one of the things I take into account, like looking day to day what we're doing, like managing the volume. It's like, ideally, we're not going to be super sore. Like you should never feel like you got hit by a truck. Like some days you'd be like, oh, I can tell I did some squats yesterday, but it's not like debilitating. But if someone says that, I will tell them, listen to your body. If it's like excruciating, like you're in pain, then obviously we're going to take a rest days. But, we want you to consistently train 4 or 5 times a week. So sometimes, depending on what the workout is, you can still come in. We can always scale everything and make sure it's appropriate depending on how you're feeling too.
So I do want to get like a little dorky, because when someone says, I'm really sore, I think there is some necessary background on what is soreness, because I think people misunderstand that. Like lactic acid, that's what everybody attributes soreness to. You know how much lactic acid has to do with actual soreness?
Very minimal.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So lactic acid is hi everybody, this is Master of Biomedical Sciences, Jeff, checking in. So what soreness is it's little tiny muscle tears. So your muscle fibers work by having, if you think of a bunch of different like hands pulling a rope, is you have, let's call it 10 different hands grabbing a rope and pulling it towards you. And then you have to release that rope, grab it, like go forward, grab it again and pull it again. So each one of those hands is a little tiny connection point in a muscle fiber. That the pulling actually doesn't take cellular energy at all. It's the letting go, the disconnection of that bond, which takes energy. At a certain point, when you overload a muscle or you exercise at fatigue, you don't have the cellular energy to let all 10 of those hands go. You just maybe have enough energy to let 8 of those hands go. Well, what happens to the other 2? Well, it just rips out of their hands then. And so you have this little tiny scar on your hands, these theoretical hands, that because the muscles are reloading and not all of them went there, that's little teeny tiny muscle tears. That is healthy, because what happens is your body goes, that level of force or that level of exertion and my lack of energy to do that, I'm going to get more efficient at providing energy to my muscles so all 10 of those can relax. Or it also reinforces the fact that I'm going to make my hands operate more efficiently and stronger. And that's how muscles grow, is little tiny, teeny muscle tears that happen to be able to move a muscle, to make it actually work. Well, what soreness is then is the inflammation that comes in after to repair those teeny tiny tears. It's that your muscles get a little puffy. It's like you get a scrape on your arm, that bump that gets on there, that's lymph, that's inflammation, that is your immune system coming in to fix that thing. So take 1,000 little tiny tears in your bicep after doing a bunch of curls. Your body comes in and says, I'm going to fix that. But in order to fix that, I have to put some fluid in there, and that pressure is what causes soreness. And just the existence of tissue, like damaged tissue, that's the soreness. That's the pain feeling, is the pressure and damaged tissue in there. Tearing muscles is just that on a bigger scale. It's just more of them. So instead of 2 or 3 being torn, it's now 5 or 6 or 7 that are torn. And so there is a continuum when you deal with someone. Like we walk around not walk around sore. You don't live sore all the time, but like every once in a while we'll get a little bit sore. Let's call it 1 or 2 out of those 10. There is a time if someone says, I am so sore, that it might be dangerous. Like we might be getting to the point where if you did this thing, you went too hard, you tried too much, whatever. Someone comes in, they do Murph and you're like, hey, you shouldn't do 100 pull-ups. And they go, damn it, I'm doing 100 pull-ups. You go, okay, you shouldn't do that. You signed a waiver. I'm telling you not to. And they do it anyway. And then they get really, really sore. That damage is dangerous to work on again. There are times, like you were saying, listen to your body to not do that. But if it's just regular soreness, the way you get rid of that is moving it because you have to flush that lymph out. So if I'm so sore, what's the worst thing that you can do? Nothing. The worst thing you can do when you're sore, like truly sore, is sit there and exist without any movement because that lymph flushes out when you actually move. So I'm so sore. What's the worst thing you can do? Sit at home. The best thing you can do, drink water, move around.
Going into it too, when I hear that at the gym, the first 2 things I look at is, did you do the warm-up I told you to do beforehand? Right?
That's a no.
The second thing is, did you do the cool down stretches I told you to do afterwards? No. Okay, let's start with that, right? We do a bunch of hinging yesterday with all those cleans and stuff, right? I told everyone, press ups, scorpions, stretch out your lower back, all that stuff. Right there. If you don't do it and your lower back's sore by the time you get home or the next day.
And that having it lengthened allows lymph to flow more freely through there, allows blood to flow more freely through there. It allows those disconnections to kind of happen. So do your cool downs, everybody.
I enjoy that science lesson. That just reminded me of everything college and studying for my CSCS. It's like, yep, right there.
All right. Isaac, next one.
My turn. I don't have time.
Start. Go ahead, Jeff. Hear what you got to say.
I don't have time. If I told you that every day at 3 p.m., if you walked into the fairway on the south side of Ankeny, someone will hand you $1,000. You're going to be there at 2:45 or 2:30, at 2 o'clock every day, no matter what, because the outcome of that thing is so important to you and so obviously beneficial that you wouldn't miss it for the world. Your kids have to get picked up. You find a way to get your kids picked up. I don't care. Like, send them home on the bus. Have your spouse go get them. Have your mom go get them. Have a friend pick them up. I have to get there because I'm getting $1,000 at that fairway. Someone is handing me this money and I'm making time for it. But if I told you every day at 3 p.m., if you go to that fairway, a stranger is going to slap you in the face. You are going to avoid that like the plague. And so it's not the thing that's happening. I mean, it's sort of the thing that's happening, but it's your priority on which you place it into that thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of talking about the same thing. I was actually reading an article the other day. It was really good. It talked about prioritizing. Basically, there's a list of like 8 or 9 things that different people prioritize, and you have the time to maybe do 4 or 5 at the best. Anything from time with your kids, time with your spouse, romantic time, health, work, networking, having friends, anything like that. And then if you're telling me that you don't have time, basically you're telling me it's not a priority, which is fine. I mean, for some people, it's not going to be a priority. I think we all know the benefits of exercise. For me personally, health is one of the top things that I'm going to focus on. But if you tell me you don't have time, basically I'm just going to say it's not a priority for you.
Yeah, like I was saying the same thing. If you don't have time, but you're saying like, I want to go to the gym, I just don't have time. Do you really actually want to go to the gym? Has it made it up that priority list as you would, right? Mm-hmm. Or is that priority still doing everything you've already been doing?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of times the people who say this the most are parents. And like Shawn, you're the only one of the 3 of us that has kids. I mean, you have kids at your house. So they're your nieces and nephews and kids that your wife does daycare for. But you actually having kids, I want to serve my children. I want to make sure that they have the best of me. I can't take time away from them. That's usually where the root of that I don't have time is. I'm going to make sure that my kids get the best of me. How do you as a parent juggle that, still being able to take time for yourself to work out or to read or whatever other thing that you want to prioritize within yourself with kids? So
kids is always going to be number 1 priority for me. That's non-negotiable. So the time that I get with my older 2 is after school. I get 3:30 to 7:30. So that's their time, period. for me to find time to work out, and my youngest, I spend most of the day with her. I love that. She's my little sidekick. But honestly, for me, it takes working out in the morning. Like I like to wake up and the first thing I do is work out. That's why even before I coach 4:30 a.m., I work out at 3:30 a.m. Like it's a priority. It's a priority for me to be healthy. And that's the only time I feel I can work out without affecting the other parts of my life, with time with my wife, time with my kids, working. So make it a priority and I do it.
All right, next topic. You're going to get hurt, or I'm going to get hurt, rather, for starting CrossFit. Shawn?
All right, yeah, I hear this one a lot. And one of the first things that I tell people, even when we do our on-ramp class, there's going to be movements that you're not comfortable doing, like an overhead squat. Most people don't like overhead squats or handstand push-ups, stuff like that. And that can be intimidating watching that or trying to do that, just coming from the couch, not working out to doing that stuff. And I always tell people, day one of CrossFit, like if you want to be a competitive CrossFitter, you got to be able to overhead squat. You got to be able to do a handstand push-up. If you want to be the fittest version of yourself, you don't got to be able to do either of those things. We can scale anything. We want you to get out of your comfort zone, but we want to safely do that. We're not going to push you past your limits and risk injury.
Yeah, I think the funny thing with that one is people see the ridiculousness that people do at gyms,
You'll get the CrossFit fails video on YouTube or something like that.
And they see that stuff. I usually say, well, if you pay attention, 85% of those are either in someone's garage by themselves, or they're actually at a normal gym doing something dumb. They're not at a CrossFit gym because a normal coach isn't going to let any of that stuff happen. And like what Shawn's saying, we have people at the gym doing CrossFit for years, will not do a handstand push-up. One, they don't want to, because they don't care to. So they do strict press every time, so of some form. And then overhead squat, we don't do a lot of those as a gym. I think is like our demographic of it. But we'll make it like the RX Plus option, so people that want to be the athletic CrossFitter or a competitive CrossFitter can do it. But again, it's just like Shawn said, getting out of your comfort zone for it. But
and the movement itself can be done safely. Like you can do an overhead squat. I mean, we give you a PVC pipe. Like it's still a good movement to do. We're not like kind of trash overhead squats and handstand push-ups because eventually that'd be cool. Like right out of the gate, if you're going couch to CrossFit, like you probably aren't doing handstand push-ups. But 6 years later, you might be 35 pounds lighter, have a bunch more muscle, and you might want to try it. And at that point, we'll do it. But I think the other thing about the getting hurt thing is if you want to go down a rabbit hole with there is a study that was put out that said that CrossFitters get injured at a higher rate than other things, but that study in itself was wrong, and they had to pay. There was a lawsuit that they had to pay because that was a defamation thing. So like they lost that case. So that thing, like someone will find a study that says that really what that study was is if someone discontinued, it was like 12 athletes or something like that. I don't know the exact one, but there's like 12 athletes. And if anyone discontinued for any reason, like someone moves or they had to, they had a baby or something like that, they would call that injured. And so 30% of people who start CrossFit get injured. Well, it's like 12 people. There's like 2 people and they discontinue. So like it was an incorrect study. But at the same time, there is an inherent risk when you do hard things that are new, like squat snatches, and you do handstand push-ups, and you do kipping, whatever. All those things have an inherent risk, and it has to be coached well. And there are still gyms that exist where the coaching is substandard, and that when you walk into a place and they're like, all right, well, workout today is deadlifts and bar muscle ups. I'll be in the corner. Go ahead. Like if that happens, there is a huge propensity for injury because you're not warming up correctly. You don't have the technique to keep that movement safe. But if a human being can do it safely, then you can do it safely. So you just need to be told how to do it safely. And I think that's where the beauty of a coached and led class is that you can get shown how to do this new cool thing in a way that is inherently safe. At the same time, if you're not pushing yourself at all to be sore, or not necessarily, you're not trying to be injured, but like I was doing heavy snatches like in October or some point like that, and I caught one a little farther forward. I've been doing weightlifting since I was 13. Like I am very experienced in this. It was something north of 225. I caught it a little bit odd, and I think I might have almost like pulled a muscle in the backside of my shoulder, like strained it a little bit. I just kept off that shoulder for the next month and a half, went back to doing everything normally. Is that considered an injury? I don't know, maybe. But understanding then, what do I do with this when I'm doing this challenging thing? I would rather have to deal a month and a half with a sort of injured shoulder on a movement that I feel comfortable with than having osteoporosis when I'm 80 because I never handle the weight. So there is an inherent nature that is risky if you do it wrong, but there's also a way to do it right so that the injury risk is lessened and the benefit is much higher.
Yeah, and we're never like we have coaches for every class, and our goal is to make you better. Coaches are never going to make you do something that we don't think you're capable of. Like,
yeah, we'll push you.
Yeah, we're going to push you. We're going to get you out of your comfort zone. But if I see you doing an overhead squat and it's not looking good, I'm going to tell you that that's not a good idea.
Yeah, it's our whole job then is to make you better. And if we hurt you while making you better, we're not making you better.
Yeah, I think too, the big one that I think we see mainly would be people jumping too fast in skills. I think that happens a lot. People try to learn, I want to do butterfly pull-ups. I want to do muscle-ups. Okay, let's get a strict pull-up. Like, kipping pull-ups are great. We want you to do that so you can do it. But you have to have strict pull-ups and a strict handstand push-ups at some form to get the kipping handstand push-ups, to get the butterfly and the muscle-ups.
Yeah, everybody sees the muscle-up and they just want to do a muscle-up.
Yeah, but that lets you, those movements, the strict ones, let us know you have the strength to actually be able to handle that thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you don't, like, does a strict pull-up and a butterfly go together? No, but it allows me to know, okay, you can handle the strength that it takes to do the butterfly.
Now we can develop the skill.
Let's do it.
All right, 3 left.
What do we got? It's unsafe for Joe Blow to do 70 snatches.
That one, that one kind of usually comes from the nosebleeds, where like someone's trying to talk trash about doing that. It's like, oh, some guy off the street, you're going to have him do a bunch of Olympic lifting movements. And I think that comes naturally with like kipping. I have a lot of thoughts on this, so I'll save mine until after. What is your natural risk? If you hear someone, if you're just in a discussion and somebody is into powerlifting, say, or whatever, and you say, oh, you're just going to take some random person, let them do snatches, 60, 70 snatches. That's unsafe. What is your kind of go-to response for that?
Not if it's on the right, if it's the correct load and they have the correct form. If they have the correct form, the correct load, which literally can mean a PVC pipe, it's not going to be unhealthy. A 15-pound dumbbell. Again, it's all about the right load. Me doing 70 snatches at 225. It's not healthy.
Yeah, it's not healthy for you.
Yeah. Can I snatch to 25? Yes. Can I do it 70 times? All day, maybe. But it's not healthy, right? Everything is based off what you can do, the relative intensity and load for you.
Yeah, and for the most part, like, we're going to have somebody come in off the street and be like, hey, we're going to do 70 snatches today. Like, that's Randy, 75 snatches. We're not going to do that. And I think our gym, one of the things I really like about it is the programming. Like, if we're going to do a workout with a considerable amount of volume in a specific movement like that, we're going to build up to it. Like, maybe that's the end of a cycle, and we've been doing snatches for 3 or 4 weeks, so you are ready for that. But we're not going to have somebody come in off the street, haven't done anything like that, and just throw them to the wolves.
Yeah, if they come in for the first class, we're going to give them a dumbbell and say, all right, here's a 20-pound dumbbell, and we'll teach you how to do this eventually, but day one, you do not have the skills necessary to do this thing, so here's this dumbbell.
Yeah, if, like, for example, let's use the Randy. If it was a Randy workout, which is a relatively light barbell for that workout, 75 snatches. It's someone's first day. What I'd probably do is give them a dumbbell. I was like, hey, we're going to do 5, 10, or something like that. EMOM, and you're going to rest. Do it again, rest. And then when everyone else is done, you're done. However many you get. Boom. Like, keep it simple. But again, it's all about the load for them. But it's not safe for them.
Yeah. And there's another kind of the other side of this is like, all right, it's unsafe for someone to do 70 snatches because I think their capacity is I'm doing 6 sets of 6 or 5 sets of 3 or whatever. It's from the traditional strength and conditioning mindset of work, rest, which is great for muscle development. Like, we do that. It has its place. But the intention of the training is different. So let's assume that a person has the technical capacity and physical capacity to do, Randy, 75 snatches at 75 pounds or 55 pounds. Let's say someone has the technical capacity to do this. Some people still have an objection with that because the point should be in their head to get better at doing snatches or get fitter and get stronger to do snatches. Doing 75 in a row means that your form is going to fall apart. That's unsafe for you to do. Same argument would usually be said with those swinging pull-ups aren't real. Those are cheating pull-ups. That's correct. I agree. They're not the same. That is, so kipping pull-ups versus strict pull-ups. If I gave you a barbell and said, put this above your head, and it was just a regular barbell, you could just kind of strict press it. You just push it up. If I said, all right, now it's a 150-pound barbell, you might be able to still strict press it. If I said now it's a 200-pound barbell, you're going to have to use your legs at that point. Like you can't just strict push that all the way above your head. If I then said, I want you to do 10 of these, you're going to have to use your legs at a progressively more consistent set. So then if I give it to an Olympic weightlifter, they're going to do push jerks. They could do 10 pretty easily because their intention is to do 10 of those with the least amount of effort possible. Now, if I said, do a pull-up, do a strict pull-up. Okay, if I just one pull-up, great. If I'm doing pull-ups for the sake of doing pull-ups, I'll do it. But if the intention is to give you a high enough load to get your heart rate up to effectively work grip, lats, biceps in that movement, and I said, now do 10 pull-ups. You're either doing 4 strict pull-ups, standing there, letting your heart rate come back down, getting back up and doing more pull-ups, and letting your heart rate come back down. You're missing the point of what it is. So a kipping pull-up is the exact same as a push jerk. If that I'm trying to develop shoulder strength for a strict press, I shouldn't push jerk because I should strict press. If I'm trying to develop pulling strength, I should just do strict pull-ups. But if I'm trying to do this movement more times under safe loading, I can do a kipping pull-up. So it's more just trying to get efficient loading over time because the goal is different. It's not develop my lats. It's get your heart rate up while working your lats and biceps. So the goal is just different. Like, sure, it is not the same. A strict pull-up and a kipping pull-up, a snatches, the point is different than just doing heavy thing.
I think the strict pull-up one is great because that's what you see get bashed with CrossFit all the time, like the swinging. It's like, yeah, they're separate movements. I always think about this, like with the bar muscle up. Someone gets a bar muscle up and they'll comment, oh, but he's swinging all over the place. And I always picture this in my head. Imagine someone for some reason literally hanging from a bar like off a cliff. And he kips to pull himself up. And someone comes up next to him and is like, nope.
It's an action movie. Tom Cruise is hanging off a helicopter.
You got to do that strict. I'm going to need you to go back down. Like, that's what I always think of, like 2 separate movements.
Yeah, totally different point.
I think, too, people, like, they just assume we don't do strict pull-ups. We do them. We do them, don't worry. But again, like you're saying, I'm not going to do Murph in strict pull-ups.
It's 100 of them. It's way too many.
Shawn maybe could. I cannot.
No.
All right, 2 left. Isaac, go for it.
I don't want to work out in front of other people.
I think we kind of talked about this already, where you are working out around other people, but it's not. All right, it's like a dance line that happens at weddings where like people start to part, and all of a sudden, if you dance in the middle, everybody's staring at you. Which also, side note, if that ever happens, if there's a dance circle, pull someone, back them in, and just close the dance circle. Dance circles are bad. Don't do it at a wedding. If you have public service announcement, if there is a wedding circle, dance circle happens at a wedding, break up the wedding circle, be a hero. Anyway, it's people think that if you go to a CrossFit class that you're going to be like, everyone's going to just stare at you.
Oh, they're new. Let's watch.
They're new. Let's watch it. It's like looking at a monkey at the zoo. What is that person? That's weird. They don't know how to do a handstand push-up. How stupid are they? No one's doing that because they're focusing on what they're doing. Like, this person might have been doing CrossFit for 5 years and they're trying to string 5 kipping handstand push-ups together. They don't have time to watch you do the thing. They're going to be paying attention, but they're not going to be like judging you for not doing it. So you're not working out. You're working out around other people. You're not working out in front of other people. You're just doing it at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think, where else could you do that besides your basement? Like
just certain movements.
Like no workout
completely by yourself.
Yeah, you're going to be working out in front of people regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah, like you can't go to like I don't want to go to a normal gym because like people sit around and they can like actually people watch. Like I used to do that.
It was just people watch at the gym.
I go to the gym and in between sets, just people watch. Like it was a great time. In the hour of a class, I don't even know what's going on through my own head, let alone paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah, people want to help. They don't really. You're not going to get judged at a class.
Yeah.
All right, last one. It's too hard for me.
I guess define harder or choose your hard because fitness is hard. Being unhealthy, overweight, that's going to be hard. Like which one do you want to choose?
Yeah, we talked about this in the last episode, which is if you find out that it is hard. Like your heart rate's going to go up and you're going to get uncomfortable and you're going to be sweaty and you're going to be a little bit sore. Like this is going to be an uncomfortable position. But let's say that you find out that doing burpees is really hard for you. A burpee is ultimately just fall down and get back up. Like it's chest on the ground, stand back up. Like you have to hop a little bit. Sometimes you don't, especially depending on the person. But let's say that that's a hard movement for you. You could either find out that it's hard in a completely stress-free environment, not it's physical stress, but like it doesn't matter. If you're bad at burpees in a gym class, Who cares? If you're bad at burpees and getting off the ground when you're 85 and you fall and you have to call an ambulance because you literally can't stand up, that's a much worse time to figure out that you're not good at that thing. So when you go into a class, it is hard. Like, it's going to be hard, but it's probably better to find out in a gym class or in a fitness class that you're bad at doing a thing and it's hard to do when you don't need it, which is when you're working out. That when you do that more, you become less bad at it, and all of a sudden, it's not hard. That thing that you thought was hard isn't hard because you've worked on it to the point where it isn't hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Just when you look at it, I'm just trying to think of like all the different things that we hear of like, it's too hard for me. I can't do this. I can't do that. And it's like, but again, you're coming here for a reason, right? What was that reason? Which is harder? Continuing the path that you're on. Like you're saying, can't get off on the ground if you fall. Getting out of bed is hard in the morning. Would you rather continue that or try a few hard things and make everything else easier? And it's only gonna be hard for a little bit. Like your first burpee, yeah, it probably sucks. Afterwards, it just sucks because there's so many.
Same burpees still suck. Like,
yeah,
1,000 burpee is still gonna suck.
Like, it's still gonna suck, but it's just they become a little bit easier to do, right? Like the person that I jumped back and I jumped up on a burpee, like that's a huge win for some people. Like, because they started crawling down, or the people that start on a burpee on a box and they have to use a box to burpee and then lower the box and it gets lower and lower. And now they can go to the floor and come back up, right? It's going to be hard, sure. But what is the consequence of not doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're going to get out of your comfort zone. Like you're not going to be comfortable all the time, but our job kind of is to make it fun while you're doing it. And if you want to get better at something, get out of your comfort zone. It's going to be hard.
All right. I think we answered, 10 questions? Most common things. So if anyone ever asks us those questions, we'll just refer them to this episode.
Anything else you guys think of? Any other questions?
No, I think there's no other questions, but there's one other like little side bonus. Is if it is nervous for you to start a thing, and you don't have to start doing CrossFit, but working out with other people makes it so you want to keep going, because I like Shawn or I like Isaac. Isaac is at the gym. I hang out with Isaac at the gym. What do? We happen to be working out. It gets to the point where if you have people that you like to be around when you're doing things with them, you just go do it because the people keep you coming back. It's not necessarily the thing. The thing is great, but the people are what makes it much easier, much more digestible to do those hard things.
Well said, Jeff.
All right. Anything else?
That's a good place to stop it.
Cool. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Check you later.